We have a presentation now by Pulakesh Sen, CEO and founder of UNIKUL Solutions. Can we have Pulakesh on?
The objective includes skilling on a large scale and speed with high standards, using technology to provide access, scale, and outreach. The national policy framework also says that the promotion of only physical infrastructure or physical facilities is not sufficient to get the scale and speed required to transform skill development ecosystem in India. So this means that the use of technology. So the framework also advocates the use of technology to scale up training institutions, okay, provide an improved cost efficiencies, and also provide access to remote areas. My name is Pulakesh, and I'm a tech entrepreneur, and very passionate about to bring the avant-garde of technology to education and training institutions. For the last 10 years, we have been bringing products for education institutions to scale them up and to help them reap remarkable benefits of new efficiencies, productivity gains, transparency and visibility, and of course, improved and enhanced decision making. Training providers are faced with a lot of challenges. They need to work out each and every detail of the training programs. So we'll talk about the budget efficient training challenges of training providers. So training providers are faced with a lot of challenges. One is that they have to work out details of the training program, but they are also faced with the challenges of technology advancements, right? So what are the challenges that the training providers typically face? One is the learner and employer expectations. There is evolving needs of the learner and the employers, right? And so this is a challenge for the training provider because they need to tailor their offerings and they need to redefine their offerings to meet the evolving needs of the learners and the employers' expectations. The second challenge is the formats of learning that is evolving. There is a hybrid model that people were talking about. There is e-learning model. But training providers need to understand that the instructor-led training or the trainer-led training cannot be substituted, which means that they have to understand the improvement of these training programs and the resource utilization required for these programs. The third is the high standards that the training providers need to maintain. The training providers need to build trust and credibility with the learners community and the stakeholder community. Fourth is the expectations around quality. Training providers need to continuously monitor quality and learning outcomes of the start and end of the delivery of training programs, which means that they have to monitor and manage resource utilization, availability of faculty, their time, adherence to schedules, availability of raw materials and consumables required for training. I'm talking about vocational training, technical training, and ITIs and polytechnics, where a lot of supplies are required during the training. And lastly, maintenance and availability of equipment, tools, and machines. Lastly, training providers also need to keep pace with regulations. There is existing regulations, and there are also new regulations. Each of these regulations provide challenges for the training providers. Let me give you an example. The government has specified all the raw materials and items to be used during the technical training. And they run into hundreds and thousands and thousands. The items need to be used in workshops. What is the quantity they need to use in the workshop? And they should have it in stock. Question is, how do you maintain and manage so many items which is in line and consistent with the specs provided by the government? Secondly, if you are managing multiple institutions across the state or across the nation, how do you manage the consistency of these items and the quality of these items, their procurement process across all these institutions? That's a huge challenge. So, keeping pace with the regulations and compliance, and if the providers or the management wants to ensure that this compliance is adhered to, it's very difficult. So training providers need to optimize the resources and time that they use for training. And training providers also need to understand that they need to get transparency and visibility of operations, which basically means that in today's world, these systems which are in place, whether they are manual systems or they are semi-automated or they are software-based, they all need to be supplemented with ICT enablement or software or technology automation, which can bring best practices, it can streamline your processes and systems, and it can provide you with the required cost efficiency and quality and transparency that you need to monitor these training programs. To cite you an example, we have worked for the last 2 years with the government of Odisha, and we have been involved. We have an MOU with the government of Odisha, and we have been involved with more than 80+ training institutions across the state of Odisha. Our software, which is around the student lifecycle management, it automates, runs, and powers the core processes of financials, human resources, infrastructure, inventory management, student lifecycle management, which is basically academics and student management and student accounting, and not to mention the placement and apprenticeship or training programs that we do. So the institution has derived a lot of benefits by bringing this type of systems. And this is a kind of transformation that we have done for the state government across more than 80 institutions across the state for the last 2 years. From a completely manual processes, they have now moved into computerized process. It's not that the whole job is done, but they are moving into it. It's a massive transformation and a change enabled by technology. So today, the management out there in Bhubaneswar or Cuttack, they can know what kind of items are being used and where. So if you want to know that this particular specific CNC machine has a battery and it's lying idle because of unavailability of the battery, so you can know that where that battery is available now in another institution, so that you can make that machine start again. These machines cost hundreds, they are lakhs or crores of rupees basically, and they are used for technical training of students. Simplification and standardization. You can call a screwdriver as a screwdriver. You can call a screwdriver as a steel screwdriver. You can call it as a metal screwdriver. And when you start going and searching how many screwdrivers do I have enough available for training, you can't get track of it in a manual system because everyone uses their own language. But now when you have a standardized system, a simplified process, because much of the complex tasks that you otherwise do manually is now taken over by the system, including all kinds of calculations. Inventory calculations, availability of stock, these are all complex calculations that the system is doing. So standardization and simplification brings a lot of benefits in terms of reducing the cost of operations and generating cost savings. So you can use the money for many other improvements or to open new institutes. From the time we started this transformation program, the number of institutions that the government has opened has increased by 25%. Each institution is approximately 100 to 150 crores budget. It requires land acquisition and so many other things. The third thing is automation of complex tasks, as I said, but the other part is multiple rounds of approvals. These are all now possible through the system. Now you don't need to wait, and you can even get what is the tag time for each of these approvals and where it is lying. Centralized and decentralized processes. When you are working in the government, there are things that you want to control centrally, which depends on policies, government policies and all, and there are things that you want to leave to the institutions to manage. Now, these institutions are not small institutions, they are sometimes quite big, with 3,000 to 5,000 students and more than 50 trades. So you can imagine the amount of material flow and supplies required to manage this type of trainings and the number of students involved in this. And lastly, if you have this system, then you also can look at the data and the information to find opportunities, for cost savings and also for productivity gains. Do you really need 5 people, or you can do with less? Many of the institutions in remote areas do not have adequate manpower. It's just not available, and people who join, they leave very quickly. That's the kind of challenge the government is facing massively. So how do you manage these institutions and provide training to people in rural areas and bring them into the workforce and get them employed? So the systems provide you the opportunity to create shared services. Now you can manage many of the operations centrally from one place. So that's the kind of opportunities we are talking about. When you look at the management, the government works with budgets, So can you forecast your next budget correctly? Well, if you understand your cash flow in the system properly, which was not possible with manual registers and other things, right? Then you can accurately forecast your cash flow. Depending, you also have a lineup of all the expenditures that are going to take place across months. And so now it's possible for you to forecast what kind of budgets you need and when you need, under which budget, because the government institutions run on different schemes and different heads, There are multiple schemes. There are central government schemes, there is World Bank schemes, there is ADB scheme, there is so many other schemes. So from which scheme you have to bring what budget, you can understand if you have these systems. So overall, I think that, software-based automation, using ERP systems and technology enablement, by bringing in RFID and, biometric authentication and other things, ultimately it brings good governance and benefits the public at large. For the government and policymakers, this provides a very robust information system, which can enable you to take quick decision making. You can make quick decisions on time. So it helps you to cut down on cost and time parameters, which otherwise would not have been possible, because you need to now wait. You need to want to see the physical files. You need to see the documents. Now everything is available real time in the system for you to take decisions. So it makes life much easy, and it improves the standard of governance of the government. Thank you so much. I have a video from my client that I can show.
Good evening. I'm Sanjeevita Rai, currently working as Joint Director at the Director of Technical Education and Training, Odisha, situated at Cuttack. It is my pleasure to talk about our experience working with the UNIKUL since last 2 years. UNIKUL has delivered a core web-based ERP solution for our 80+ institutions, which are ITIs and polytechnics spread across the state, which automates and integrates administrative functions of accounting, HR, inventory, academics, library, and placement, which includes OJT and apprenticeship. They have delivered the solution within the parameters. In my opinion, the integrated solutions provided by UNIKUL is imperative for any skill development or training organization that needs to streamline content delivery, track learner progress, optimize resource utilization, and reduce administration time of training managers and coordinators. Wishing UNIKUL all the best in all their future endeavors.